Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Career Talks. I'm your host, Orlando Haynes. Each and every week, without fail, amazing people, amazing content, amazing advice. But before we jump into this dynamic lady, Miss Courtney Ball, I just want to share a quick note on the sponsor of the show, which is super cool. If you heard each week, good friend of mine, Deborah Russell, she's founded a company called Agape Career Counseling Group. So this firm it's a coaching firm that helps you discover the career you love. They do HR and small business consulting. Their website will be in the notes after the broadcast, but you can go to the website agapeccg.com. And it's also sponsored by Beneby Perfume. Yes, I said perfume. You're wondering why this is a Career Talks podcast. Why perfume? Well, this is also underneath, and she's probably like, why are you saying that? But this is also a launch product by Deborah. So I wanted to highlight that as well. She's very diverse in what she does. So I appreciate that. The website for that perfume is ligperfume.com, and the smell is multi levels of smell. So I think something going. Here's what she talks about: it: Caribbean, mango, orange. It has all these different levels of smell. So if you're wondering again why the connection, definitely highlighting my supporters on this podcast. So who we have tonight is this dynamic. I've been watching her content on LinkedIn. Dynamic young sister who's been sharing a lot of content. She is an HR executive. She's a leadership coach. She's a recruiter. She's an author. She's the chief diversity officer of New York Legal Assistance Group. She has a podcast, and she's also the founder of Courtney Ball Corp. Is there anything else I can say? I'll let her say it. So without further ado, let me bring on Miss Courtney Ball.
Hello. Thank you
Hey,
so much
how
for
are you?
having me. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm blessed. I cannot complain. I appreciate you being here. Definitely, the accolades could have ran on, but I wanted to stop so folks can hear who you are. so,
Okay.
first and foremost, go ahead and share with the folks more about you and what you do.
Yes. Thank you so much for the intro. As you said, my name is Courtney Ball, and I work on a lot of different projects. And primarily, I am a chief HR officer. So, specifically, I head up people and the DEI strategy at a nonprofit here in New York City. I am also the owner of my own company where I provide leadership coaching to women that are looking to obtain roles at the director plus level. I love what I do. I talk about it all on my podcast. And super excited to be here speaking with you all today about relationship building and how powerful it is and the impact it's had on me and my career.
Love it, love it. So, let's start there. Let's talk about your journey and how relationships helped you throughout your career, hitting chief diversity officer title there. Walk us through that.
Yeah. Um, I was listening to some of the other episodes and thinking, why did I choose this topic? And honestly, relationships, specifically having relationships with key influential people, and I would include an honest relationship with myself in that, it has opened a ton of doors for me. I am Chief Diversity and People Officer at this organization. And just 9 years ago, I started out as a generalist at a consulting firm in New York City. So that's how quickly I've ascended. And I've been able to do that by leveraging relationships, learning about opportunities before they're even available to people. But I was like, what is it about me and the ability to connect with people that actually has really um, sped up my growth or accelerated my growth? And I'm a big learner. So when I
Mm.
interact with people and I'm networking with them, whether it's internal at the company where I work or brand new folks like you and I love learning about people, what they do, what makes them tick, For leaders within my organization, what is their vision around how we are going to grow, and gaining all of that knowledge and socializing it with others. It's landed me in some pretty big roles, and that's kind of how I landed where I'm at currently. I was recruited last summer, and I think they recruited me because I've been in HR now for over 15 years, but I've been in the legal area since I was 16, which was almost 20 years ago now. So I and it's just, I could go on and on, but it's just amazing how connecting with people, getting my name out there has put me in positions I never thought I'd be able to enter.
So one of the things you said, key right off the top, which I love, you said you started off with relationship with yourself. Unpack that a bit. What do you mean by that?
Oh Lord, this is tea. This is not wine. The relationship with myself. When I took on this role in the C suite, before I took on the role, I said, my next job, I want to have a seat at the table. I want to make impact. I
Mm,
want people to listen to what I have to say. It's one thing to say that, and another thing to then go through the interviews, meet with the general counsel, with the CEO, and have to prove to yourself that you do deserve that seat at the table. And
correct.
I've been challenged in a new kind of way in this role because I can't turn to my boss, head of HR, and say, "Hey, this is a tough thing I need to work out. Can you help me figure it out?" It's on me. I have
Hmm.
to trust myself. I have to believe in myself. I have to trust my intuition. And that has required me to get to know myself better, to build myself up when I don't feel as strong or confident in what I'm doing, um, and just going back to learning me and what makes me tick. I knew that as a recruiter, I could figure that out as a director, but now that everyone at the organization is looking to me to solve these critical people and culture problems, um, I'm learning myself all over again
I
in the
like that.
healthiest way possible.
That's good. So when it comes to that type of internal conversation,
Yeah.
right? Because like you said, you're taking a huge leap into the C-suite. It's high profile, regardless of the company. Internally, it's a huge role.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can get seeps of imposter syndrome that creeps in. You're like, oh my god, like you said, you got to now you got to walk the walk. You talk the talk to get you there. Now you got to walk the walk.
Yeah.
What are some of those day to day conversations that you're having with yourself? And then part two of that question, with others to give you more confidence in that relationship building piece.
Hmm. Great question. On a daily basis, I'm telling myself to stay calm. Um, Head of HR and DEI, with everything that we have going on in the world, everything we have going on in New York City, I'm a part of a lot of conversations where people are looking to me to be the voice of reason, to represent the culture. And I'm like, I just got here. Um, so I have to remind myself not to get so worked up and to trust my intuition. And more specifically around imposter syndrome, on a daily basis, when I feel it creeping up, I try to face it head on and I test it. Okay, so if they're asking me to make a decision around how we should communicate about our return to the office plan, which is just triggering for everybody, right? And I start feeling like, can I say this? Should I not say this? I'll literally sit down and say, okay, well, if I say this, what's the outcome? What are the pros and cons? What are the advantages or disadvantages? To try to rationalize that fear and attack it head on, because I'm in such a fast pace
Hmm.
organization. I really don't have the time to second guess myself. I can't move impulsively, but I have to move I want to be a leader that makes decisions in an informed way, but
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
always leading with empathy, always. And that,
Got it.
that can be tough.
It can for sure, especially at that level. Um, in part two, who do you turn to? So who are you talking to?
Mhm.
Whether you have any mentors or sponsors, to kind of help you navigate this space. How long have you held this title so far?
6 months, six
Six
months
months.
and 2 weeks.
Okay, so still in the
Mhm.
early stages, but
Mhm.
long enough
Mhm.
for them to start, looking at you like, what's going on?
Mhm.
So who are
Mhm.
those folks that you can turn to? And maybe it's not even within the organization, but at your level where they know what you're going through.
Yeah. Before I answer that, I have
Hmm.
to break down what I'm looking for advice on.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, I am looking for help with decision making and really just being strong and focused in my decision making. And when I'm turning to people for help, it's either one or two mentors and former sponsors. One is a mentor who has been working for nearly 4 decades, and she's worked from everywhere on Wall Street to nonprofits. And to gain advice from someone that has broken so many barriers as a black woman, I always want to hear how she's been able to do it, because it is not easy to navigate these predominantly white spaces. And she's done it very well. So I turn to her, my mentor, very often. We're going to lunch on Thursday. And then on the flip side, sometimes I know we didn't talk about like personal background, but I'm a first generation college student, first
Mm-hmm.
generation graduate school, corporate, all of that. So, this inherent familiarity with how a business works, how corporate America works, I've had to figure it out a lot on my own. And so, I have a mentor, straight white dude. And I'm just mentioning that because he's so different than me. We're
Mm-hmm.
opposites in many ways, but I lean on him because he gets it, he knows it. And it's not a confidence boost, so to speak, but he affirms me and tells me, like, why are you even doubting yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're brilliant. He understands me. He understands some of the internal struggles that I have to face working in HR. So I turn to both of those people pretty often. And I also, just going back to relationships, I have a close group of friends that I'll turn to when I need that additional support. When I need someone to tell me, Courtney, stop working for a minute, take a vacation, relax, don't work yourself to death.
Got
I
it.
have a couple circles of friends that support me in that way.
So you said something very interesting there as well. Two things. What I hear a lot is that women in the C-suite or director level up are being sponsored or mentored by a white counterpart, right, or a male counterpart. Some predominantly more white, obviously, the way the corporate culture is landscaped. But
Mhm.
two, you said he affirms you. So without this gentleman knowing the cultural background and how people of color we walk through in corporate America and what we you know go through day to day, no matter how high performing you may be, how is he speaking to you from, what is he pouring into you that gives you that confidence? Like what is the white man counterpart able to speak to an African American woman in that level?
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people know that. We hear it,
Yeah.
but we don't know what some of those conversations may look like to be like, oh wow, he does get it or she does get it, right?
Mhm. Honestly, it's honest, unfiltered conversation.
Hmm.
When I'm talking with my peers, other black women, other black men, we get it. We get each other. We know we can empathize with each other. I'm definitely a lot more informal. I keep it real, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I keep it real with my mentor, but we don't have that shared understanding. He doesn't know how it feels to walk in my shoes. All he can do is be himself in
Hmm.
his fancy title that he has, making all of the money that he does. He can just be himself. So when I'm engaging him in conversation, he's talking to me just like he talks to the other boys at the table. And having that kind of dialogue where I feel safe enough to maybe say, I don't really know what that term means in financial services because I don't know what hedge funds do. Can you explain that to me?
Hmm.
That's really valuable. I don't always have the space to admit that I don't know something or that I need some help. And having those kinds of straightforward conversations with him, especially around some of the hot topics that we deal with in HR, especially now, especially in this pandemic, it's just, it's super helpful. And like I said, I don't always have a seat at that table. And
Hmm.
he was the first person to engage me on that level, bringing me into conversations, asking me for my advice. It's given me the courage to speak with other people that are at that level that are totally different than I am.
Mm. I like that. That he's really speaking with you and to you, and not at you.
Hmm. Very
I
much
love that.
so.
That's good. So, from a leveraging, because you also mentioned you're leveraging those relationships. How so, and how often are you leveraging your relationships?
Well, that's one reason I decided to start my coaching and to start my business. I have too many friends that are in, most of my friends are not in HR. They're in some kind of profession where they have found themselves stuck in the same role for going on 10, 12 years. Same role, same level, same compensation. And me being their friend, I know how amazing they are. And I never quite understood what was keeping them there. I have all these connections. Like, I'm not saying I know everybody, but I know people. I know things, you know? So I first started leveraging relationships to help other people. And then I realized, oh, you're kind of good at this. Did it with myself in my own career and ended up being a director at a really awesome nonprofit at the beginning of 2020. Yeah, at the beginning of 2020. Um, and then I started to leverage relationships more in growing my business. So, by way of referrals to bring on more coaching clients, but also on the corporate side of things, working with organizations that are interested in meeting my network because they want to hire more women that look like me. They
Mm.
want to diversify their staff. So, I would say I've successfully leveraged relationships in that way, and I try to do it as much as I can. I'm big on connecting people, whether it's personally or through my business, to new opportunities because I hate that it's so hard for certain people just because of their background to make it in certain spaces.
Mm.
It bugs me. And if it's as simple as knowing how to articulate your value in an interview or knowing how to articulate your impact on your resume, if I can give you the secret sauce, I'm going to give it to you and try to put you on as best as I can.
Love it. So, as a learner, is that something innate in you, or is that because you saw the trajectory of your career and you have? And sometimes we can think, I have to keep up or be
Mm-hmm.
ahead of my, of my peers, in some sense, to maintain this role or achieve this role. So, is it something innate in you where you're constantly learning, or is it due to you felt the need to start learning more because of again the increase in your career?
Oh, Orlando. Man, I'm getting personal.
We getting to know Courtney here now.
You're right, because now I'm thinking, like, is it an innate thing? And I have to be honest, because that's all I know how to do.
Hmm.
Initially, School, education was my path out of the circumstances I was born into. So, coming from a family of humble beginnings, um, and seeing from a very early age, if you do not go get your education, you will have nothing. And I'm not trying to knock anyone else, but that was my perception. Like, I
Hmm.
saw the community around me, and I didn't see a lot of careers, didn't see a lot of money, didn't see a lot of relationship building at all. So I would say starting in high school, I always saw school as an avenue to learn new things, to create opportunity for myself. And as I got into college and graduate school, it wasn't from a place of confidence. It was more so from a place of scarcity and just being afraid, if I slow down, if I don't get my master's, if I don't go to law school, then I'm going to fail and I'll end up with nothing. And having that mentality got me but so far. And it took me to the point where I had a job in corporate. I was
Hmm.
making decent money here in New York City, but I was not happy. I was simply being a people pleaser because in my mind, I thought, if I don't show how good of an education I have, if I
Hmm.
don't do everything they ask me to do, I'm going to be fired. They're going to talk about me, all this bad stuff that doesn't happen. Um, So it took some time for me to recognize that my ability to connect with people different than me is actually one of my superpowers. It's something that, as an HR professional, so helpful. Not like I'm very comfortable engaging people that are very different than me, helping them, supporting them through really tough times. So over time, my desire to learn more about people, I learned how to use it to my advantage. And
Hmm.
eventually I found a career path that's perfect for that because now I'm heading up people and culture at an organization. And with my coaching, I'm literally able to meet women and help them figure out what their superpower is, what their impact is in the workplace and the world, really.
And that's a great segue to your coaching program in your company.
Mhm.
What are some of the main areas that you're focused on in helping women of color ascend to a director level and above?
Strategy. Like,
Mm.
not not strategy in the sense that it's like some fluff and some templates. It's
Hmm.
really saying, what do you want to do? What is stopping you? Let's make a path to actually get you there. A lot of my clients work in HR, they work in DEI, and they're looking to make that transition to leadership. And I work with them to figure out, what is actually blocking you? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it a lack of access to those influential stakeholders? Is it that you don't have the time? We can make time, we can make the connections, but we need to make a plan first.
Hmm.
So I support my clients in making a plan that'll take them from point A to point B, ensuring that they get all the things that they want. Yes, it's about a title. Yes, it's about having authority, but you want your money too, right? Like, let's remember all of that
Yep.
when we're searching for the job and
Correct.
actually interviewing. There's
Correct.
a method to it. And if you just follow the plan, you get your 100K job and you'll be good to go. That's my area of expertise.
Talk to us a little bit more because I'm sure you would have to also, in all of that, talk to them about navigating that corporate landscape. Right? There's a level of acumen that anyone has to have, but again, as African Americans, we tend to have to add more, that
Yes.
much more. Everything from appearance to cadence and
Yes.
how we speak, what we know, how we communicate, data, all those nuances. That's crucial that we need to be at a higher level, or at least learn. Well, we're not experts in all fields, but talk to us about how you're coaching these women who want this, but still may not be aware of that landscape and how to navigate it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. so funny because I'm putting myself in the shoes of my
Hmm.
clients, and you hit the nail right on the head. When we're trying to navigate these spaces with very few Black folks, probably none in leadership positions, it's very it's scary, right? And you start to feel like I have to be perfect because that's what we've been told since forever. You have to work twice as hard to get half the pay, so on and so forth. So with my clients, the first thing that I do is provide a safe space where we can lay it all out there. I let them know up front very clearly. I've been there. Some days, not necessarily broke, but my mindset goes
Hmm.
back to I'm not good enough. I have to be perfect. So I provide that safe space to let them know those feelings that they have, totally normal, and they may not go away. But the whole purpose of my coaching program is to teach you a strategy to help you overcome that. So we start with that safe space, and then I try my best to approach this from a very practical standpoint. You are not applying to every single job available at the company that where you wish to work. You're also not applying to things that have nothing to do with the experience that you have. So we start with narrowing the focus of the job search. What is it that you want to do? You want to be a leader in HR. That's not a job title. So what is it that you want to do? Do you want to be a
Hmm.
director? Do you want to be talent acquisition? What do you want to do? And we start there so that we can then work backwards. If this is the role that you want to obtain, how are we going to position your experience, your expertise, and your education to help you land that role in the most efficient way possible? We start there. What is that superpower? What is your unique value add that you're going to bring to this opportunity and this organization? And then we go to the relationships. That's part of the plan.
Hmm.
So I hate this whole idea of just applying to job after job after job after job and like cold calling people on LinkedIn.
Oh
No,
boy,
we have
yeah.
a very focused strategy where we are looking for a very specific kind of job in a specific kind of industry and company size so that we're looking for roles that you are perfectly suited for. I'll give you an example. If you look at my LinkedIn now, you see that my background is a mixture of working at a consulting company and I worked at a law firm. And now I work at a legal services organization. The common denominator is people. I work with experts that are sharing some kind of expertise that
Hmm.
people pay a lot of money for. So, as an HR professional, my ability to identify people that are really good at their job and help them be even better at their job, that bodes very well for an organization where their people are their product and that's how they make their money. And I teach my clients that exact same approach. If your background is perfectly suited for education, why are you looking in tech? Like you can totally make the transition. I believe in transferable skills, all of that. But let's focus the search in a way that makes sense, not something that just sounds nice or that someone else is doing.
Hmm. Are you seeing some common themes when it comes to the relationship piece? Like you said, you leverage
Hmm.
first. You started off with first, relationship with yourself, and then leveraging those relationships. Are you seeing a common theme with the ladies that you coach that's missing that piece?
Yes. Unfortunately, and I started to do some research around this, a lot of the women in my coaching programs feel, and they've experienced it, but I try to move them past a feeling and actually work in facts and reality. They feel like they do not have access to these stakeholders. And my question is, well, why not?
Correct.
It's I totally understand that some cultures are not set up in a way where leadership will reach out to people at all different levels of the organization. But that arguably that's not their job. If you are within an organization or you're looking to move into a new one and you know that you want that role, let's make a plan and connect with those people that make decisions around the opportunity that you want. That is as simple, especially if you're navigating a promotion, that is as simple as saying, hey, department head, I know I don't report to you, but can we sit and have a conversation about where we're going as a department? Because I want to contribute on a bigger level, on a larger scale. You have to make your desires, your goals known, so that you can actually obtain them and so you can welcome people to support you in achieving those goals.
I love that. One of the things that I've learned during my tenure with Amazon, one of their principles, their 12 principles, is own your own development, in which you just spoke to. So, regardless of what you want to achieve and do, they're saying speak up, because we're not putting it on the manager to necessarily pull you up. They're going to give you the roadmap and assist you. But if you're not stepping forth and saying, here's my goal within 1 year, 2 years, start me on that course, and
Mm-hmm.
then I start to execute, my current role, but also stretching myself to learn more about the next thing. And it was something you said earlier too about in the meeting. You were like, you know, I'm not familiar with that term in the financial services space. So one of the things I
Mm-hmm.
do personally is I watch a lot of interviews with global CEOs, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
so I can learn the language, even at a high level. And there are a lot of people in finance or banking or mergers and acquisitions, regardless of the organization. But some of these main CEO global companies, just so I can hear again and understand the language. I may not know completely right off the bat, but it's repetitive. I'm like, okay, got that, got that, got that. So if I'm at that table at some sorts, or I'm in a conversation, someone at an executive level, and they talk the same talk, right? Some of the verbiage is the same universally. Um, I start to catch it that much quicker. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm following, I'm tracking, got it. And if I respond more intelligently.
Mm-hmm.
But so that resonated with me. I'm like, yep, yep. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask the question too, like, what? I'm sorry, what did you mean by that? Explain that, unpack it, let me know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a learning opportunity for us. And I think what you're saying is sometimes fear will set in. We're like, and we don't tend to just ask the question to open our mouth to get, to be taught from those in a higher level than us. So yeah, you're sharing some keen things, and I'm like, wow, I'm going through this, been through
Yeah.
it, right? Because
Yeah.
we're every day is like something new. There's something new.
Mm-hmm.
There's something new.
And I
So
try to be a sponge, right?
yeah.
Like in love that you mentioned watching the CEOs speak. I've learned, when you're working at a business, you can you can pick up on their strategy and how they are
Hmm.
actually being successful in doing it. And what I try to do within HR is emulate as much as that as possible. So I can be that much better of an HR leader to my clients, which tend to be my staff. Um, and I would also add that in terms of relationship building, anytime that I'm in an internal meeting or, like I said, meeting someone that's different than me, even if I have no idea what they are talking about, I try to listen as much as possible so
Exactly.
that I am engaging them and we can at least have a conversation, you know?
Hmm.
And I found that people, especially folks at the top of organizations, they appreciate that,
Yeah.
especially even from their HR people.
Exactly. Yeah. And I tell people, the higher you go, the language changes. The language absolutely changes.
Hmm.
It is a completely different world at a C-level suite when you're in those conversations with senior VPs of, HR or chief financial officers, CIOs. It's just it almost strategic in future in how they speak. So I'm like, hmm. I'm like, man, these people are smart. I'm like, wow,
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, like you said, I just try to consume as much as possible, as much as possible. So with that, which is a great segue again to how much, because you mentioned culture as well. How much does culture play a part in building those relationships?
Hmm. You said culture, and I'm like, morale is low. um, oh, that's an interesting question. I think it plays a lot into
Hmm.
building the relationships, and I'll tell you why. I've been fortunate that my current employer and my last two jobs, the CEOs of both, although while revenue and fundraising was front of mind for them, they were also leading during a pandemic. So they understood that a bad or toxic culture would lead to turnover, and that's simply just not good. And I would say that those conversations um, became became an opportunity for me to provide a safe space for the executives that I worked with, but also an opportunity for me to give them some honest feedback around what's going to work in the culture and what's not going to work in the culture. Being one of the few Black women at the director level at my last three employers, saying very candidly to a CEO, like, I don't see a space here for me long term.
Mm.
Takes some courage,
Hmm.
but as we go higher, what is our role, right? If
Correct.
you're not creating an atmosphere where people that look like me or I do not feel like I have a future there, I have to speak up. I have to say something. And I think that being honest and candid with them has given me, um, it helped us, our relationship become a lot stronger. And we just had a better rapport. I would never say any of those things in a public setting, but one on one, if you ask me my opinion around the culture and you want me to provide commentary on it, all I can do is be honest. Um, so, to answer your question in a more straightforward way, it has helped me build a stronger rapport with the executives that I interact with. I would also say with staff, also, because I try to
Hmm.
provide that safe space with them. Obviously, not sharing as much of my frustrations with them.
Correct.
Um, but it's also helped me improve the culture by putting real life examples behind things that maybe they see on Glassdoor or maybe they've heard anecdotally from other people. I'm saying no, it's a real feeling and you have to do something about it.
And this is just a question just to get your opinion, because what you said there too, which has been embedded for years, is as a leader, a people leader, whether you're a team lead, a manager, director, etc., we cannot express our true, I guess, true opinion to our team, right? To our staff that supports us. And what are your thoughts? Why? What's the long term effect of maybe doing that? And just again, it's just more of your opinion. But why
Yeah.
can't we just say, hey, yeah, that new change that came down, that new policy, I don't like it, but here's what we're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Uh, why is that such a bad thing in the taboo in corporate America?
Well, in my current job, we're unionized, so I can't say anything like ever. Um, but I never really thought about that. I guess I am I don't share as openly with people that report to me about my feelings of frustration,
Hmm.
because I don't want them to become jaded, and I never
Hmm.
want to adversely influence their experience at the organization. The problems, the things that frustrate me about an organization, in HR, we know everything that's going on. And some of the things that I know, maybe they're not privy to. So I wouldn't want to add additional layers of emotional distress if that's unnecessary. And it's really not their business, not their burden to carry. The other reason that I don't share as openly, and you can take this with a grain of salt, I guess, now that I have the seat at the table, we're supposed to be a team. And if the team has said we're going back to the office one
Mhm.
day a week in Manhattan, as much as I love being at home, I'm going to say we're going back to the office. And my frustrations, why I think it's not the best thing, it's more appropriate for me to voice those concerns directly to my peers rather than the people that don't have a say so in what's happening.
I believe because you answered it correctly. Oh, what I was looking for, um, because yeah, the trickle effect. Because what's there is that relationship with your support, your staff, to the
Yeah.
company, right? Their relationship with the organization can completely shift. They're like, "Whoa, Courtney, like hating on this. Like, whoa, what does she know that we don't know?" like,
Oh,
like
and
it's
actually, just to add something
yeah.
really, really quickly,
Hmm.
some things that we have to do in HR, they just suck. When I have to fire someone, I hate
Mm.
it. I hate it, hate it, hate it. If I'm a part of like multiple terminations in one day, it's my job to do it. I hated doing it, but that comes with the territory, So I try to use it as a teachable moment as much as possible and just tell my direct reports, I did it. Here's the signed paperwork. And if you have questions, we can talk about how this process goes. But I can't unload on them around why I thought the decision was not good, why I thought the package was not big enough. It's just not worth their time or
And
energy.
that's why I love HR practitioners. Previous companies, there's three women who I reported to or partnered with that were still friends today that impacted my career. But just to know that the day to day things, like you mentioned, to have to term or deny something that may be super personal, but it doesn't matches up with the policy, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
you can't extend that leeway. That can be crushing in taking that day to day and walking home with that after a business day. You're like, man, I hope that person stays and understands its policy. Then it's like, but where's the heart? Where's the people in it? And I'm like, it's
Right, right.
it's tough for HR practitioners because
Hmm.
your department is the only title that has the word human in it, right?
Right,
So
right.
there's that leeway or understanding that people will assume that you can be more human and disregard policy. It was
Not
like
so
if it was my
much.
company, I'd probably let you ride, but
Hmm.
I can't.
Hmm.
I can't. So
Hmm.
yeah. So yeah, tremendous respect for HR practitioners. So um, share with us where your relationships, your leveraging or attempt to leverage, has not been as successful as you hoped, where it almost potentially backfired. And it was a lesson learned out of that.
Oh, this is fun. I did a podcast 2 weeks ago and they asked a similar question and I got to edit that answer out. So hold on. Let me just think
Take your time. Take
about
your time.
this. Um, and this is like I'm actively just dealing with this now and I hope this is not a cop out answer. I was listening to the episode about interviewing and she talked about like I think you asked her how do you answer the question of give us a weakness or something like
Oh,
that.
with Madeline Mann. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I hope this isn't one of those cop out answers like I work too much. Um I I've been at this in this role now for 6 months.
Hmm.
And last week was our first week where we were required to go into the office. And I found myself in a lot of conversations, a lot of people wanting to talk to me, a lot of directors saying, hey, can I have some one on one time? I'm a 3-person HR team,
Hmm.
and there are 360 people at the organization. Yes, we need more HR people. So I don't have a ton of time to sit and have those conversations. And last week, especially, I noticed myself being in these one-on-ones and like checking the time because I had other like more task oriented things to get done. So sometimes me being a good listener backfires when everybody wants me to listen and everyone wants that support. And I don't know about you, but there's so many things going on in this world, and people are dealing with so much stress in their personal life while watching the news, while navigating through these New York City streets. Um, I want to be there for them, but sometimes I feel like I don't have enough time in the day to support everyone, and that's tough for me because I want to do that for everybody that I work with. Uh oh, I did something. I can't hear you.
Yep, that was my
There we go.
my. So share a story from the past, maybe a past employer where it just completely went awry. You were like, was not expecting that. That was a gut punch. I thought
Oh,
I had a partner in sharing this, and it was completely blindsided.
oh.
Because it
What's
can
the?
get tough
Because
as an
usually
H
I know.
again in HR.
Yeah, usually
It's
I know
like
the snakes, so I work around them. Um, and then I'm like, okay, is that in a severance agreement? Can I talk about that? Okay.
be careful. Yeah, let's not
Right.
go further back.
um,
And if you're not even something you might have heard from a colleague or a friend, doesn't have to be personal.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you about just a strange thing that happened and the
Hmm.
lesson learned. So I worked at a company, and at this company they started a book club, and they were supposed to read books that were like adjacent to the kind of work that we did.
Hmm.
And they wanted to read a book about white supremacy by a very well-known white supremacist.
I'm
And they
sorry.
said,
You said that was supposed to be adjacent to
mm-hmm,
what? Okay.
mm-hmm,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, yep. So they emailed me. They said, hey, Courtney, we're thinking about this book. Have you read it? No.
What?
Why did you think so? I thought me and this person were aligned on
Hmm.
what kind of books they would be reading. But I had to have a one-on-one conversation with him, and I was just like, "Well, why did you think?" And
Mm.
this was at the beginning of the Trump administration, and he felt
Mm.
like they're talking about this in politics right now. Our staff should know how to talk about it. And I had to gather myself, and I said, we are political scientists. We are not sociologists. We are not radicals. This has nothing to do with political science. This is
Hmm.
not a political party. This is a hate group. And that's a book full of hate speech.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he said, okay, well, you're HR, thanks. I'm not sure
What?
what else. And again, listening to people, I'll say as much as the conversation
Mm.
was just so out of left field, I think him being from somewhere in Europe and just not
Mm.
understanding that cultural piece and how it would land with all of our staff,
Yeah.
I took it as a teachable moment. I did not take it personally, although I did when I got the email. Um, and at the end of the day, I won, and he didn't share the book.
Wow. Wow. I couldn't even imagine the immediate emotional feelings that would have rose up in me. I'd have been like, do I swing? Do I
Right, right,
do,
right.
Do I
Like, what's
just
the purpose of
do
reading
I
the
come
book?
all out of
What are
character
we
and just
doing?
no, no, no? Let's not do that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
wow. Yeah, I guess yeah. The just the knowledge gap. You said it's from Europe, but
Yeah.
still, like, why would you think
And
that
that's
was
how I
a
took it too. A knowledge gap. There was an
yeah,
ignorance there, like
yeah,
literally a lack of knowing how this would impact people.
yeah.
Not
He
not
didn't
a
work his
thing.
relationships. He could have asked someone first to see, hey, what do you think about this? Yeah, Bill, that's a great book. Go for it. No, dude. Like, no, no, John, don't even try it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So
bad.
with time racing, it goes fast. That's why I
Yeah.
love doing these though. But um, share with us, what's next for you, and not only your career, if you want to share those goals, but with your business, more importantly.
Yeah. What's next for me in my career is that's a good question. It is pushing our DEI strategy forward to the point where I feel proud to share it more externally. Like, I want us to be positioned to be innovators in this space in nonprofit land and legal services here in New York City. And on the business side of things, I have a virtual training coming up. I host one every month. It's called Land 100K Job Virtual Training. And we're talking about leveraging LinkedIn this month or in the month of April. It's April 18th and 19th. And we're going to talk about how to get really clear on your unique value add and make sure that you're articulating it throughout your leadership brand. So, on your LinkedIn, on your resume, throughout your interviews, and especially when you're negotiating your offer. We'll cover all of it.
Ooh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Make sure either send me the link or drop the link in the notes at
Yes,
the
I
end of
will.
this. Final question. Final
Yeah.
question. What's your personal, if you have, your personal daily mantra that gets you through each day?
Mhm. Something I tell myself every day is a prayer, which is, God, speak to me in a way that only I understand so I can do your will today.
Mm,
Every morning, every day. And I wait to receive it.
love it. Love it. And we are going to end it on that. But I thank you so much, Courtney, for your time, your expertise, your poise, your professionalism,
Thank
wisdom,
you.
etc. Stay tuned next week, folks. But hang out with me for a second after this, and I'll just close this out.
Okay. Thank you.